Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for some time today, or some time for the past few years, we're going to start off this program with the national anthem. I would ask all of you now to please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that. This is the United States Congress about 2008. Okay? I've never seen the United States Congress rise up and sing the national anthem before. I think this was a special, interesting piece, and I wanted to share it with you. I've never seen it happen before, and we probably will never see it again, unfortunately. But I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was important. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate you all and your attendance at this special program today on Emergency Management Associates. I have some very important things to talk to you about tonight. I would hope that you all would stay tuned for what we have to say. What we have to say tonight is very important. Okay? I want to emphasize that. What we have to show you tonight is very important. The United States government, with Joe Biden chiming in, has now authorized, I'm going to repeat, has now authorized our United States military to deploy long-range missiles in Ukraine. They're already there. The U.S. government, with Joe Biden in charge, has deployed long-range weapons, long-range missiles for limited strikes inside Russia in response to North Korea's deployment of 10,000 troops to aid Moscow's war effort in the Ukrainian war front. It's unheard of. Okay? Back in June, Russia signed an agreement with North Korea's President Kim Jong-un to be allies in war. Kim Jong-un, I believe, thought it was mostly for his troops to be protected in the event of a strike by South Korea or the United States or some other country. However, Russia's asked for Kim Jong-un to deploy 10,000 North Korean troops to the war front of the Ukrainian border. The easing of restrictions on allowing Kiev to use Army tactical missile systems, what they call ATOMs, or ATACMS, to hit targets inside Russia is a significant reversal in U.S. policy, as comes as some 10,000 elite North Korean troops have been sent to Kursk, Russia, a region of Russia along Ukraine's northern border, to help Moscow's forces retake territory gained by Ukraine. This is unheard of. It's never been done before. It needs to be said that the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, has been allies with Russia for some time now. This was done in order to protect North Korea if South Korea or the United States attacked North Korea. Now it's turned full heel, where North Korea has sent their troops, 10,000 men and women, to Russia. With this latest provocation, North Korea sent these troops to fight Russia. Now, I have heard a lot that could be construed as propaganda. I've heard a lot of things that could be construed as propaganda. And I want to emphasize that. A lot of things can be construed as propaganda. The Biden administration fears that more North Korean Special Forces units could follow in support of this effort. The move precedes by 2 months the return to the White House of President-elect Donald Trump, who has signaled his intents to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, though without offering details of how exactly he will do so. He has already talked to Ukrainian President Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. One U.S. official said this move is in part aimed at deterring Pyongyang from sending more troops. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, must understand that the initial deployment has been a costly mistake. Some of those men and women on the front lines of Ukraine do not want to be there. They were told if they were not killed in fighting for Russia, that they would end up returning to North Korean prison camps. That is the only future that some of these soldiers might be facing. Either death in a region of the world that is very foreign to them, or death in their own homeland in a prison. Ukraine has already fired off 6 of these long-range U.S. missiles into Russia, allegedly to deter continued Russian bombardment of Ukraine with its missiles and bombs. This move precedes by 2 months the return of White House President-elect Donald Trump, who again signals his intentions to end the war. Trump has stated that he's already spoken to President Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky. The White House, President Biden, and the Pentagon have declined to comment. Ukraine's presidential office also declined to comment. Until recently, the Biden administration was steadfastly opposed to Ukraine firing these United States manufactured long-range weapons, especially into Russian territory, warning that the measure could lead to escalation by the Kremlin. It was out of proportion to its battlefield benefits. Long-range missiles called ATACMS, ATACMS, pronounced ATACMS, is a supersonic guided missile system that can be fitted with either cluster munitions or conventional warheads, with a maximum range of about 190 miles. Ukraine for months has sought permission to use these powerful missiles against Russian territory, arguing that the weapons would enable him, Zelensky, to hit targets that would degrade the Kremlin's war machine. The arrival of the North Koreans in October in the Kursk region, where Ukraine launched a surprise offensive in August, was seen by the West as a major escalation and spurred an intense effort inside the Biden administration with allies on how to respond. The White House and the Pentagon have declined to comment. Ukraine's presidential office also declined to comment again. This is ongoing. The White House under Biden wants to put Ukraine in the best possible place ahead of peace talks that the new U.S. president is expected to spearhead early in his term. Even before the election, Biden had committed to surging aid into Ukraine in an effort to cement his own legacy on his way out of office. It is my opinion that Biden is not even involved in this situation at this point because of the decline of his cognitive abilities. I believe that there are other people within the Biden administration that are running the show. NATO is also involved in Ukraine and is purportedly using the United States equipment to wage war against Russia. Putin has spoken many times over the past, even last year, that if NATO did become involved in Ukraine, that there would be heavy retaliation to the West, including the United States. President Biden is committed to making sure that every dollar that we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th. Every dollar. As if Biden hasn't given Ukraine enough money. Biden is now purportedly going to send, or already has sent, another $10 billion to Ukraine this month. A second U.S. official said that Biden's approval of the ATACMS missiles is going to have a very specific and a limited effect on the battlefield, because the missiles are designed to limit concerns about escalation. If news of this policy shift is true, Michael Kaufman, who is a Russian-Ukrainian military expert, said that it could be of operational benefit to Ukraine, enabling Ukraine to better defend and hold on to the territory that they currently occupy in Kursk, and help offset the benefit that Russia enjoys from employing North Korean forces in this specific part of the front. Previous steps framed at limiting contact have cracked the door to wider forms of military assistance over the course of the nearly 3-year war between Russia and Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin is testing the West, NATO, and even South Korea, observing their response to North Korean forces joining his campaign. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said last month, if the response is weak, we should expect the numbers of foreign soldiers on our soil to increase. Russia's capture of eastern Ukrainian territory has accelerated, buoying the spirits inside the Kremlin, whose leaders now fear that they have the advantage in a war that is no longer a stalemate. The authorization of use of missiles from the United States follows months of resistance by the Biden administration about allowing Ukraine to use the ATACMS missiles to hit targets within Russia. Senior U.S. officials have expressed private concern that Russia could retaliate by escalating inside Ukraine and around the world, and denying Kiev's pleas to be able to fire the ATACMS missiles inside Russia. Administration officials have publicly said that the use of the weapon would have marginal utility on the battlefield. Really? Reaching 160 miles into Russia is marginal utility on the battlefield? Pentagon officials, who were by far the most skeptical voices inside the administration, have argued that the benefits of allowing strikes inside Russia would be limited because the Kremlin, anticipating a potential easing of the restraint, earlier this year pulled most of its warplanes and other assets deeper into Russia out of range of the missiles. As of September, 90% of the Russian aircraft launching glide bombs into Ukraine were flying from airfields outside the ATACMS range. Pentagon spokesman Sabrina Singh said at the time that this policy move comes at a time of heightened political sensitivity as Biden seeks to alter Ukraine's fortunes before Trump takes office, solidifying his legacy, and as North Korean troops have bolstered Russia's advantage on the battlefield. Ukraine's control of Russian territory has been very intense and has taken intense significance as both sides scramble for advantage ahead of potential talks to end the war. People close to the Kremlin say that Putin is unwilling to start any negotiations while Ukrainians are on Russian soil. The Biden administration is focused on helping Kiev preserve its bargaining leverage as long as there is possibility of bargaining. U.S. and Ukrainian officials believe that the presence of North Korean troops will free Russia forces to focus on gaining more ground elsewhere, as well as push the front lines forward in Kursk and forward into Ukrainian captured territory since August, providing a moral boost to Ukrainians who have been sapped by nearly 3 years of war. North Korea's Pyongyang's involvement have rattled Washington and its allies, who are very wary of the assistance Putin might offer Kim in return. At a summit of the Asian Pacific leaders in Peru on Friday, Biden met with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol, and in a statement, the three leaders said they strongly condemn North Korea's troop deployment to Russia to dangerously expand Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. The trio also noted that the deepening military cooperation between the two countries, calling the supply of munitions and ballistic missiles particularly egregious given Russia's status as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. U.S. officials have said that their concerns about Russian escalation in response to the Western military aid has diminished over time as one weapon system after another has been provided to Ukraine without significant retaliation response so far. But United States government missiles flying into Russia is an entirely different ballgame. Ukraine is already using U.S. equipment inside Kursk to attack Russia. But Putin has been very explicit that he considers the use of the attack of missiles a red line in the sand. In September, Putin declared that a strike by the missiles into Russian territory, which previously involved U.S. targeting assistance, changes the very essence of the nature of the conflict, warning that his country would retaliate. Okay? Putin has warned us that he will retaliate. Okay? This is why I'm talking about it tonight. I think this is a serious enough topic that we need to talk about, that everybody needs to know about. Okay? Now, Putin has later revised that Russia's nuclear doctrine in what has been interpreted as a veiled threat against U.S. provided long-range missiles on Russian soil. Putin has said that he will retaliate. Administration officials in Washington have previously been skeptical of allowing Ukraine to use U.S. long-range missiles for strikes within Russia. The blowback may not be worth the potential battlefield advantage, but with North Korea's increasing involvement in this conflict, the U.S. calculus appears to have been shifted. The authorization of the attack of missiles on targets within the Russian territory follows repeated requests by Ukraine. Earlier this year, Kiev asked Washington to provide long-range attack of missiles, and in August requested that its forces be allowed to use them in Kursk. He said, "We have adapted and adjusted to the needs of Ukraine as the battlefield has changed, as what Russia's been doing changes as well, as new elements are introduced. For example, the North Korean forces. Secretary of Defense Blinken, during his visit in Brussels on Wednesday, made specific mention of this. Quote, "I can tell you that we will continue to adapt and adjust again to make sure that Ukraine is in the strongest possible position to deal with this aggression." Blinken declined to comment on specifics about the steps that the Biden administration was taking to respond to the North Korean troops. North Korean soldiers do deploy to fight against Ukraine. They're fair game. They're fair targets. That's what White House spokesman John Kirby said last month, warning that anyone fighting Ukraine forces faces retaliation from Kiev. The Ukrainian military will defend themselves against North Korean soldiers the same way they're defending themselves against Russian soldiers. This may also lead Kim Jong-un in making retaliation against the U.S. and or Korea as a result of his troops being attacked either in Russia or Ukraine. Trump is expected to be far more skeptical of U.S. aid to Ukraine than Biden has been, and he has expressed eagerness to broker a peace deal between Russia and Kiev. Putin and Trump spoke in a call after the election, according to 5 people familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive diplomatic exchange. In that call, several people said Trump warned the Russian leader not to escalate in Ukraine, and said he wanted to discuss the resolution of the war very soon. The Kremlin has denied that the call even took place. Biden, though he has authorized tens of billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, has been reluctant to grant Kiev advanced U.S. weapons. Biden hesitated about sending the Patriot air defense system. Then Biden relented. A similar policy evolution saw Washington initially refuse to give Ukrainian U.S.-made Abrams tanks and F-16 fighter jets. The White House in May reversed a broad ban on Ukraine using U.S. military assistance to strike within Russia. It reversed a broad ban on Ukraine of using U.S. military assistance to strike within Russia. Folks, we do have U.S. military troops in Ukraine. I want to make that very clear. Now, after Kremlin took advantage of the restriction by orchestrating its forces in the border regions, attacking across the frontier with relative impunity, Biden finally authorized long-range attack of missiles earlier this year. He wanted to limit their use within Ukraine's own territory, enabling them to strike Russian forces on the Crimean Peninsula, but not to hit within Russia itself. Now that has changed. The White House has maintained its ban on attack and strikes inside Russia, in part because of concerns that Russia would respond with force against the United States and other allied interests elsewhere. That would include the use of even more devastating weapons inside Ukraine, an increase in sabotage attacks in Europe and in the United States, or other intensified support for Iran and for the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who have snarled global shipping in the canal. Two other senior administration officials said in September that it's going to continue. Biden administration officials note that Ukraine has very limited stocks of attack missiles. Russia has shown that it has significantly shot down those missiles, and they have the capability to shoot down all of them, he said. And the Pentagon, whose own missile supply is dwindling. The Pentagon supply missiles and other ammunition is dwindling because Biden has completely debilitated the U.S. military. Unreal. Biden says it does not have any more to give into Ukraine without affecting U.S. readiness elsewhere. Defenders of Biden's approach say he's been managing risk of escalations amid periods in which U.S. intelligence assets have offered real warnings about the possibility of Putin using nuclear weapons against Ukraine and or the United States. But the halting provision of advanced weapons and other cautious policies has caused frustration in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials have said when troops finally reach and receive the weapons or are free to use them, the military returns are often diminished because conditions on the battlefield have changed, leading to preventable casualties and setbacks. Again, I want to emphasize preventable casualties. This could result in preventable casualties. This is according to soldiers and commanders on the ground. Now, I want to kind of leave this topic right now. And I want to talk about migrant children. Okay? The Biden administration this week has found that there are over 291,000 illegal unaccompanied minors that did not make it to their mandatory court appearances. 291,000 illegal unaccompanied minors have not made it to their mandatory court appearances. Where do those children go to? Where did those children go to? Over 324,000 children have been unaccounted for since they came across the border starting 4 years ago. Customs Border Enforcement cannot find any of these children. This leads many of us to believe that those children were being trafficked when they were brought across the border. HHS Secretary RFK will be put into office once President Trump assumes office on January 20th. He will be in charge of making sure that these children are accounted for and that the non-governmental organizations that have helped bring these children into the U.S. are dealt with legally. He's going to make sure that these children are found and make sure that these non-governmental agencies are dealt with legally. Tom Homan, our new border czar, who also takes place once President Trump is sworn into office, has said that he will make this one of his top priorities, to find these children and make sure that those people who have brought these children into the United States will be dealt with appropriately. This is the top priority of the Trump administration. I hope and pray that those children are okay. Now, why do I worry about it? Because every time I see another news report of another child or woman that has been killed as a result of these gangs that are roaming into the United States out of control. These illegal Mexican and international gangs that have come into this country because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris killing our people and killing children. It's horrible. And I don't want it to continue, as most of you also do not want it to continue. Now, I wish that President Trump was already in office. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff is going on. Now, there's another issue. There's very much another issue here I want to talk about. Yes, we will get to earthquakes and such in just a minute. A roommate of Laken Riley's killer. Remember Laken Riley, an aspiring nursing student who was killed by one of those scumbags, one of those Venezuelan gang members? Her roommate testified that they went to the Roosevelt Hotel together, an illegal alien refuge, and received a taxpayer-funded flight to Georgia. Laken Riley's killer, along with other illegal immigrants, received a flight from New York to Georgia because New York is trying to transport their illegal aliens from New York elsewhere because they can't handle them anymore. They don't have the money or anything else to continue housing them there. Although New York is still considered a city that allows these illegals into their country, into their areas. Okay? Our government flew this scumbag into Georgia, where he murdered Laken Riley. This illegal immigrant flew from New York to Atlanta on a taxpayer dime and killed Laken Riley while he was there. Her death is on Joe Biden's shoulders. Her death, as well as many others, are on his shoulders, as he let in 20 million people, 20 to 25 million illegal aliens into this country, terrorists and gang members. And Joe Biden has said, oh, I didn't allow these terrorists and gang members in. He certainly did. He certainly did. And it must come to a screeching halt. I'm just saying, it must come to a screeching halt. It cannot continue. It absolutely cannot continue. One more thing. Today, President Trump got some very good news. New York State prosecutors urge a pause on President Trump's New York criminal trial. The picture you see beside President Trump is the Judge Mershon from New York. Alvin Bragg, the New York State Attorney General, as well as the Attorney General of the City of New York, have been urged to stand down, at least until President Trump leaves office in January 2029. Then they will decide whether they will bring Trump back up on charges and whether they will prosecute him. Isn't that interesting? how these Democrat dirtbags want to come after President Trump. But because he's a sitting president and right now he's on the verge of taking the presidency office, they don't dare touch him. Number one, he's under Secret Service protection. Under Secret Service protection. They cannot protect President Trump in Rikers Penitentiary, one of the most dangerous penitentiaries in the world. They want to leave President Trump alone until at least he leaves office. Then they say they might go back after him. How about that dirtbag prosecutor in Georgia who just got reelected? Fani Willis. Fani Willis attempted to prosecute President Trump 4 years ago. She's been trying to attempt to prosecute him ever since. Her trial's on hold because of her judicial misconduct. Fani Willis's judicial misconduct. And yet, the voters put her back into office as a district attorney. Isn't this interesting? She got put back into office even though she violated President Trump's rights and a lot of other people's rights. Incredible what these idiots do. It's incredible what these idiots do and what they get away with. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. James Barreca is here in the chat saying he wants a total dismissal, not a pause. I agree. Now, I want to tell you this. Remember Mr. Matt Gaetz, who is Trump's nominee for the United States Attorney General's office? He's going to go after a man named George Soros, who is behind the prosecution of the president now. George Soros has been providing these prosecutors with money, and he's been making sure that these district attorneys are elected to go after President Trump. Every place where there's a district attorney that's tried to go after President Trump, George Soros has financed it. He's financed their election. He's financed them being there. He's financed all the people that the district attorney needs to go after President Trump. George Soros' money. George Soros is a bad guy. George Soros has a warrant for his arrest here in the United States. That's why George Soros is living outside the United States. If George Soros comes back into the United States, or he gets caught by our FBI or our CIA, he will be brought back here for prosecution, or probably something worse. Okay? It's credible. Yes, James, I want a complete dismissal as well. President Trump has been through too much garbage, too many scumbags. Right now, Judge Merchan is deciding what he's going to do. Allegedly, Judge Merchan was going to prosecute and sentence President Trump back in September. That was put on hold. It was put on hold. But now, Judge Merchan is still weighing whether he's going to put President Trump in jail now, between now and January 20th. Isn't it interesting? This same man who has provided money for the Democrat Party and his daughter, who's been a fundraiser for the Democrat Party, and has even provided money for her father to prosecute President Trump, and Merchan's wife, who's also a contributor to the Democrat Party. These people are allowed to go free and do whatever they darn well please. unreal. Uncotton picking real. Yes, I pray for President Trump. I pray for J.D. Vance. I pray for Elon Musk and all the others. Kash Patel. I pray for Vivek Ramaswamy. Everybody affiliated with President Trump. Because the facts are this. If they're going to go after President Trump and anybody else that's been around President Trump before, they will continue going after anyone that President Trump is around now. So I believe we need to be praying for our entire nation, that we can heal this evil, that we can stop this evil. And yes, it needs to be stopped, and it needs to be stopped immediately. NCWQ is going to put her grandbaby in bed, and maybe she'll be back. Thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate you. We hope you have a good night. We all love you very much. Anyway, but does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about so far? Does anybody have any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Charlene, welcome here to our program. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate all of you that are still here. Now let's talk about earthquakes. First, I'm going to talk about earthquakes worldwide. There are a few to talk about. A few. Now, let me take my smiling mug down. Took my banner down. Now I can bring up the U.S. map. Actually, the world map here. Okay? I want to start down here in Tonga. This is the largest earthquake that has hit the globe so far today. This is a large, very large 5.6 earthquake down here in Huma, Tonga. A 5.6 earthquake, 50 kilometers, about 40 miles west of Huma, Tonga. A 5.6 very large earthquake. The problem is, these very large earthquakes can still do some damage. Even though it was 40 miles away from the island of Homa, it still can do some damage. Look where this earthquake is. It's on the earthquake fault right here. It's on the Tonga Ridge here. It's very close to that island of Homa. Now, even though this was offshore, most of the seismic energy from this earthquake, most of the seismic waves were dissipated by the waters of the Pacific. But because it was this close, the island of Homa, Tonga, may have felt some part of this earthquake. They may have felt some part of this earthquake. I want to make sure everybody realizes this. Okay? This is a very strong earthquake. Okay? Let's go over here. This is a 4.4 moderate earthquake here in Fiji, in the Fiji region. It's a 4.4 earthquake. This is also 563 kilometers deep, whereas the Tongan earthquake was 10 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. This is considered a very deep earthquake. This 4.4 could propagate a 5.3 earthquake. This could propagate a large 5.3 earthquake. Now this propagation could go east over to the Tonga region. It could go north into the Fiji area here. It could go west over here into the Legacy Islands. It could go northwest over here into Vanuatu. It could go further west over here into the Solomon Islands. or it could go west over here into Papua New Guinea. We don't know where this earthquake will go to. But sometime within the next 72 hours to 10 days, we're going to see another 5.3, 5.4 earthquake as a result of this 4.4 here today. Larger earthquakes that are deep propagate, or not, I shouldn't say larger earthquakes, but any earthquake that's a very deep earthquake can propagate a stronger, more shallow quake. And that's why we are talking about this now. Now, what I'm showing you today is not a map showing all the earthquakes. The United States Geological Survey does not talk to us or show us all the earthquakes that are happening. USGS says there's only 183 earthquakes worldwide. I'm telling you right now, there are over 1,000 earthquakes worldwide. There are over 1,000 earthquakes worldwide. USGS only shows a pittance. For whatever reason, they don't want to tell us exactly what's going on. I go over here to the eastern Java area, Malmir, Indonesia. This is a 4.6 earthquake here. It's also 105 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. We go over here into south of Java here, just off the coast of Java, Indonesia. This is a 4.6 earthquake. This is also 50 kilometers deep. 50 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. Now, they're not showing any other earthquakes here in Indonesia. What a joke. There are over 18 earthquakes here in Indonesia alone, yet they don't want to show them to us. Let's go north over here to the south of the Philippines. Actually, it's in the Philippines. It's south of Mindanao, Philippines, the largest island in the southern Philippines. This is a 4.6 earthquake. This is about 93 kilometers south of Banjar. This is a 5.0 earthquake just south of Pondagaitan, Philippines. 5.0 earthquake, large earthquake, just south of Pondagaitan, Philippines. For all intents and purposes, the waters of the Pacific Ocean have absorbed the shock waves from this quake. This is far enough away where we believe that nobody felt this quake. Okay? South of Mindanao, Philippines here. Now, it doesn't mean there's no more earthquakes here in the Philippines. There are. There are 4 other earthquakes here in the Philippines. All of them are small and moderate earthquakes. Nothing very big. Let's go up here to Japan. Just off the coast of Honshu, Japan, we have another 5.0 earthquake. This is 59 kilometers south-southeast of Oyama, Japan. This is 248 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. This is off the coast. Now, there may have been some rumbling over here on Japan. It's not going to be that strong because this is only a 5.0 earthquake. And some of the seismic waves of this earthquake have been dissipated by the waters of the Pacific Ocean again. But there may have been some rumbling felt over in western or eastern Japan here. I'm real. We go further south over here. This is in the Volcano Islands. The Volcano Islands south and east of Japan. This is a 4.6 moderate earthquake here. This is 10 kilometers deep. 6.2 miles deep. Not a big deal. The only other earthquake here in Europe China or the Middle East that the USPS is showing is a 4.4 earthquake here in Kashgar, China. Kashgar, southern China. 4.4 earthquake, 10 kilometers deep. Like I said, there are a lot more earthquakes here than they're even talking about. A lot more. There's some earthquakes over here in Iran and Iraq. Earthquakes over here in Turkey, especially right here. There are 40 earthquakes in this region here, the Turkey-Syria border region. Why? The earthquakes here are aftershocks of a major earthquake that hit here a year ago last January, actually February 3rd last year. A 9.0, 10.0 earthquake happened here in the Syria-Turkey border region, and it opened up a huge fissure, a 14-mile long fissure. It was 8 stories deep. Deep enough to put an 8-story building into it. That's how strong an earthquake we had here. It completely changed the landscape. That 9.0, 10.0 earthquake also killed 5,000 people and injured 5,000 others. Incredible. Incredible. And over a year later, we're still seeing aftershocks. Aftershocks. A lot more earthquakes in northern Turkey, a fewer number of earthquakes in southern Turkey. Quite a few earthquakes in western Turkey over here. Those are 2.0, 2.3, 2.4, 2.7, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 earthquakes here in western Turkey. Off the coast of western Turkey, all these islands belong to Greece. These are called the Dokanese Islands. Yes, we have a handful of earthquakes out here in the Dokanese Islands. These are also minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. Come down here to Crete, the Greek island of Crete. There are a handful of earthquakes here as well. We go over to mainland Greece. We have 18 earthquakes here in mainland Greece. Most of those earthquakes are right here. Right here. We have a handful of earthquakes right here, near the town of Patras, or the island of Patras, where the Apostle Paul preached and wrote some of his epistles, named after the Apostle Peter. Okay? Now, the earthquakes happen to follow the craton edge, the edge of the plates. Okay? As I told you about these earthquakes here in the Turkey-Syria border region, the edge of the plate comes down here out of Turkey-Syria here. It goes around Cyprus here. It comes out here into the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean Sea. It comes down here south of Crete. Then it falls over here to western side of Greece. Then it comes over here to Italy. Comes over here to Italy. There are some minor earthquakes and tremors around southern Italy. Over here in central Italy, we have a huge swarm of tremors. Huge swarm of tremors. 1.2s, 1.6s, 1.7 tremors. When we have swarms like this, we usually get a larger earthquake very soon after these tremors hit. That's not been the case this time. But the last time we had this happen, we had a 5.1 earthquake that occurred here. I still believe we're going to have a large 5-point-something hitting here in the very near future. Okay? Going up here to northern Italy, around the Alps, we have some tremors here. Going into the Alps here, Switzerland, Germany, and France, tremors and minor earthquakes here. But again, USBS is not talking about any of this. They want us to believe that nothing happens. Now, going over here to the Spain-France border area, there are a couple of earthquakes here. Again, these are just minor. Tremors and minor earthquakes, two of them. 1.7 and 2.4 earthquake here in the France-Spain border area. Over here in Spain, there are a handful of earthquakes here. They're just minor earthquakes. Just minor earthquakes. Outside Spain over here in the Azores, we have some minor earthquakes here as well. 2.4, 2.7 earthquakes. Sometimes we even have 3.5 earthquakes here. Sometimes. That happens. Down here in the Canary Islands here, right here, we have some tremors, very, very minor tremors. Nothing major at all. Don't even want to worry about it. Don't want to worry about it. Now, yesterday over here in the North Mid-Atlantic, we had 3 earthquakes. 3 5.0 earthquakes over here. Those earthquakes originally, excuse me, I shouldn't even say that. They originated way down here in the South Sandwich Islands. Those earthquakes came up through the South Pacific here. I'm sorry, not South Pacific, South Atlantic, on the Mid-Atlantic ridge that you can see here. Those earthquakes came all the way up here. And we had 3 5.0, 5.1 earthquakes here, and 1 5.3. Okay? Now, it's not showing any earthquakes here today. That does not mean they aren't here. That does not mean they aren't here. That energy is here. We're going to see it pop up. We're going to see the large seismic energy come up here into the North Mid-Atlantic right about here. I expect that to happen sometime within the next 24 to 48 hours. We're going to see more large earthquake action. Now, why is this happening? Why are we seeing these earthquakes here in the Mid-Atlantic? It's because, folks, the Mid-Atlantic Ocean is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Ocean is expanding. Just like you would unzip a sweater or a jacket or anything else. The Atlantic plate is unzipping. It is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic plate is pushing Europe in an easterly direction. On the other side, it is pushing the North American plate. Canada, the United States, and Mexico in a southwesterly direction. That's why we reported earthquakes here on the East Coast yesterday. We showed you earthquakes here on the East Coast yesterday. It's all that expansion is also putting a lot of stress on the New Madrid Fault. Over here in Alabama today. Alabama here, and this is the Eastern Continental Divide here. Over here in northern Alabama. This is a 2.4 earthquake here. A 2.4 earthquake here. Unreal. Then we go up here to the center of the New Madrid Fault. This is a 1.8 tremor here. Now, we talked about tremors and earthquakes up here in the New Madrid Fault area last night. This is just a 1.8. I showed you a seismogram of the Marston area last night. They had many tremors on there. It's about time that the USBS were to show at least one tremor. There are a lot more earthquakes and tremors here on the Marston seismogram than they're talking about. They never show everything. They never show everything. I'm here to tell you right now, Missouri is honking. Missouri is honking. Okay? Now that might sound like a strange expression, but the entire New Madrid Fault is moving, and it's moving in a big way. I believe sometime within the next 2 years, sometime in the next 2 years, I believe we are going to see a major earthquake here on the New Madrid Fault. Up and down the fault, all the way down here to the Gulf of Mexico to the south, and all the way up to the north, Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. This whole area here will be shaking. Now, it's not going to just affect the northern New Madrid Fault. When the big New Madrid Fault hits, it's going to be at least an 8.0 earthquake. That earthquake is going to be felt to the west and to the east. That big 8.0 earthquake on the New Madrid Fault is going to be felt all the way over here to the east coast. It's also going to be felt to the Great Lakes. It's going to be felt all over the Midwest as well. It's going to shake and shake and shake. And it's going to be shaking for days and days afterwards. This whole area is going to shake for days afterwards. Incredible. Incredible. Sebastian Lawyer, we're glad to see you here. From Alberta land, Alberta, Canada. That's great. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you here. Let's go further west here. This earthquake is over here in southeastern Oklahoma, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is a 2.0 earthquake. A 2.0 earthquake. Where is it at? They say it's 7 kilometers north-northwest of Newcastle, Oklahoma. Sorry, folks, USGS has this wrong again. It is southwest of Newcastle, Oklahoma. A 2.0 earthquake. Now I'm going to show you something that I think you ought to know about. See where this earthquake is? You see several oil and gas pumping operations. One up here to the north right here. That is an oil and gas pad right there. Further south here, closer to that earthquake, there's another oil and gas pad right there. And one right there. And one right there to the south here. And one further to the west, right, actually 2 pads here further to the west. This earthquake here, 2.0 earthquake near Newcastle, Oklahoma. It's an oil and gas fracking quake, which means the seismic energy hit this hole where the oil and gas people drilled, fracturing the rock inside the hole, causing Earth to move. This is an oil and gas fracking operation quake. Okay? Now, while I'm sitting here showing you these quakes, these pads aren't very close to this earthquake, but they are relatively close. Now each hole, let me do something here. I want to show you something. Each hole, it does not have to be straight down. Each oil and gas drilling hole, or a hole where they're pulling steam from a volcano, those holes don't have to go straight down. Some of those holes are perpendicular like this. Other of those holes are more horizontal like this, going down into the oil field. Okay? But it doesn't matter. where those holes are. When seismic energy hits one of those holes, it causes the rock inside that hole to fracture, causing the earth to move, and that's what we're seeing here. I've not explained that in a while, but I wanted to make sure you understood that. Okay? Let's go further south and west here. Okay? So far today, this is the only earthquake that has been reported by the USGS here in Oklahoma. If you go over to the EMSC, the European agency, they're showing more earthquakes in Oklahoma. They're showing more earthquakes in Texas as well. Let's go down here into Texas, southern Texas right here. This is Pleasanton, Texas. This is also a 2.0 earthquake. Let's zoom in on this earthquake and see where it's at. There's more than just one earthquake here. Okay? Notice where all these oil and gas pads are as well. These are oil and gas earthquakes. Oil and gas earthquakes. The pads are everywhere. You can see them to the north up here. These are oil and gas producing pads here. Every square or rectangle has a pump and jack on it. Now, it doesn't have to have a pump and jack on it to have been an oil and gas hole. They may have pumped the hole clean, or they pumped most of the oil and gas out of it, but the hole is still there. It doesn't matter whether it's presently being operated, but where there's a hole, the seismic energy can still hit. Okay? This is definitely another oil and gas production hole here. Earthquake. 2.0 earthquake. Over here further to the west, there's another pump and jack right there. You can see it here. You can see it there. Okay? Another oil and gas hole there. Let's go further here to the northwest. Also 16 kilometers east of Pleasanton, Texas. Let's zoom in here. Now, we have some pumping operations up here to the north. If there's an earthquake and it's anywhere within 6 to 10 miles of a oil and gas pumping pad, then it is an oil and gas earthquake. And that's where this is as well. It's an oil and gas field here. In an oil and gas field. Okay? Let's move out here. There are a lot of earthquakes in Texas, and we want to talk about them tonight. I want to make sure everybody's aware of it. This is Westbrook, Texas. This is a 2.1 earthquake here. 7.3 kilometers deep. Now, these earthquakes seem like shell earthquakes, don't they? 7.3 kilometers deep. Just about 3.5 miles deep. Now, these are also oil and gas holes here. Oil and gas producing holes here. I'm trying to take you places we haven't shown here before on these maps. Okay? This is 18 kilometers south of Westbrook, Texas. Now again, you can see these oil producing pads here. There's one right there. Okay? There's a pad here, right there, where this road ends. I don't believe it's an operational pad anymore. I don't see any other pads here that are oil and gas producing pads, but this one is close enough to that earthquake here, or to that pad here, where it's an oil and gas quake here. Again, this is a 2.3 minor earthquake. 2.3 minor earthquake. Let's come up here for the west to the northwest here. This is Ackerley, Texas. Now this is maybe a little bit different. Accurately, Texas, about a month and a half ago, had a 5.0 earthquake. A large 5.0 earthquake. Why? Oil and gas fracking again. Oil and gas fracking. Accurately, Texas, you're going to see, just a second, all kinds of oil and gas pads here. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere here. It's like a laid out grid here. It's completely like a laid out grid here. Okay? This is right smack dab in the middle of an oil field. Right smack dab in the middle of an oil field here. Texas is just that. Now, we've been told that there are 586,000 pumps and jacks in Oklahoma. I have no clue how many pumps and jacks that are in Texas. Probably 5 or 6 times that. Probably about 5 or 6 times. This earthquake that I'm showing you here is a 1.8 tremor. This is 38 kilometers northwest of Stanton, Texas. Look at the oil and gas pads here. Again, this is smack dab in the middle of pumping operations. Pumping operations. An oil and gas fracking quake here, 1.8 tremor here. And we've just begun to scratch the surface on all the earthquakes here. Okay? I'm coming over here. I want to show you what's going on here. Here we have a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake. Why do I call a 1.9 a 2.0 earthquake? Because USGS downgrades the quakes. The United States Geological Survey downgrades earthquakes. This they have is a 1.9 tremor. They downgrade the seismic events to the nearest 0.9. They call it the 0.9 Society. The 0.9 Society is alive and well. That's a 1.9. This is a 2.8. This is Mentone, Texas. Mentone, Texas, guys. Mentone, Texas had a 5.2 earthquake here a year ago. A 5.2 earthquake here a year ago. This is a 1.7 tremor. This is a 2.1 earthquake here, minor earthquake. This is a 1.8. 1.0 to 1.9 are considered to be tremors. 2.0 to 2.9 are considered to be minor earthquakes. That's what we have here. Okay? Again, you can see the pads here, the oil and gas producing pads here. They're everywhere. These earthquakes are right smack dab in the middle of an oil and gas producing field. An oil and gas producing field. Do you guys have any earthquakes, or do you have any questions about these earthquakes at all? Okay? Southwestern Texas here has been seeing swarms and swarms of earthquakes during the past 48 hours. This is a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake near Toyah, Texas. Toyah, Texas. Okay? Notice the pumps and jack pumping pads here. All over. This is a 1.6 tremor. This is a 1.7 tremor. The pumps and jacks are everywhere. Now I'm going to pull out a little bit, right up here. See this water here? This is a pond. Folks, these water ponds are connected to the oil and gas pads up here. Why? Because it's fracking. They pump treated sewage water into these holding pools where they can take it and pump water, this treated water, down into the ground in order to retrieve gas and oil. That's why they have these pads here. It is not for these oil barons and oil field workers to swim in. These are not swimmable pools. These are actually sewage pools, treated sewage. Okay? That's what's going on here. Julian Hugh Lewis saying the earthquake unearthed buildings from before the flood too. They have. That has happened. I don't believe it's happened right here. But yes, earthquakes have unearthed buildings way beneath the area where the earthquake hit. They have done that. Ancient civilizations. Ancient civilizations. But that's what's happening here in southwestern Texas. It's not an increase in earthquakes necessarily because of the fracking pads. Seismic energy comes and goes. Why do we have all these earthquakes suddenly over here in the central part of the U.S., Texas, or anywhere else? Because we have seismic pressure coming from the east and the west. We're seeing seismic pressure coming from the east and the west. We have seismic pressure coming from the Pacific Ocean, pushing on the western part of the United States. That pressure is going all the way across the North American plate. We also have some other pressure coming from the Atlantic plate, because I've told you that the Atlantic plate is pushing the North American plate in a southwesterly direction. The pneumatic fault is being squeezed. The pneumatic fault is being squeezed. Seismic energy coming from the west is coming over here to Texas. That seismic energy finds these oil and pumping operations, and it causes the fracturing of the rock, causing earthquakes. Okay? The seismic energy comes through the rock, comes through the earth, finds those holes, those man-made earthquake faults, finds the rock, fractures the rock, causing earth movement. That's what's going on here. Don Patoka says, not a heliopad? No. It's not a helicopter pad. Although there are some oil and gas derricks out to sea, out in the Gulf of Mexico, out off the east coast of the United States, out off the west coast of the United States, where the oil pads have a helicopter pad to ferry workers to and from the mainland out to the pad to work. That does happen. But here on the land, the workers come here by truck or car or whatever they drive, come out here to the oil field and work. That's what happens. Richard Smith says a 2.5 in the Azore Islands, Portugal, depth 6 kilometers deep. 3 miles deep. Azore Island just off the coast of Portugal. Happens every day. Several times a day. Thanks, Richard, for talking about that. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. Sage Pup, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Talked about Oklahoma. Let's move over here to Southern California. Tomorrow night, if nothing else happens, well, we have a special speaker here. We have a special guest that will be with us part of the night here on our program. I'll introduce him tomorrow when he comes here. But we're going to be talking tomorrow night about earthquakes in Southern California. I want to come over here right now, because as you see, there are earthquakes over here in the Imperial Valley of Southern California. Earthquakes here. There's a slew of them. A small swarm of earthquakes here. What has happened here? I'm going to show you. This is 6 kilometers southwest of Holtville, California. Okay? Holtville is right up here. Holtville is where the Salton Sea Desert Research Station is. They have a seismograph here that records earthquakes. We have a swarm of earthquakes just southwest of Holtville. This blue earthquake that I'm showing you right here, let me turn off my picture here. This blue earthquake right here is a 2.0 minor earthquake. 2.0, 2.9 earthquakes are minor earthquakes. That's a 2.0. This is a 2.2. Further out here to the northwest, 1.7. 2.0, minor earthquake. 2.5, minor earthquake. 1.6, 2.6, 2.3, 2.3, 2.1, and out here at 2.0. A swarm of earthquake just southwest of Holtville, California. Okay? What you need to know. Guess where these earthquakes are? Right on top of the San Andreas Fault. Right on top of the San Andreas Fault. Further to the north, we have an earthquake just happened, a couple of them. This is a 1.6 near Brawley, California. I've been to Brawley. Brawley's just up here, right here. Good old Brawley, California. When I graduated from high school, right before I graduated from high school, I was at a speech and debate tournament here in Brawley. This is a 1.6, and this is a 1.5, just south of Brawley, California. Earthquakes here. Right smack dab on top of the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault, guys, runs right alongside. It starts up in Northern California, just off the coast of Northern California. It comes all the way through California, comes down here through the east side of Los Angeles, comes over here to the east side of the Salton Sea here. It goes underneath the Salton Sea right here. Goes underneath the Salton Sea right here. It comes out from underneath the Salton Sea right here. Calipatria, California. Yes, we have some earthquakes here. We have 75 earthquakes here in Calipatria, California today. 75. Usually we have anywhere from 70 to 150 earthquakes here in Calipatria every day. They're not telling us about any earthquakes here. Why not? Because they don't want us to know about it. Even up here, on the east side of the Salton Sea, this is Bombay Beach. There are about 10 earthquakes here. 10 earthquakes that are 3.0 to 4.0 earthquakes. Small to moderate earthquakes here at Bombay Beach. But they certainly aren't showing that here on the map, are they? They never do. Calipatria with about 70 earthquakes here today. You see these other earthquakes as well. I'm going to tell you this. Right here. This is Westmoreland, California. There are about 40 earthquakes here in Westmoreland. Tremors and minor earthquakes. Tremors 1.0 to 1.9, minor earthquakes 2.0 to 2.9. Westmoreland, California. That's not all, folks. There's more. There's a lot more. For those of you that know what's going on. Imperial, California. Small town of Imperial, California. There are about 40 earthquakes, tremors and minor earthquakes here in the town of Imperial. The Occasionally we will see a 3.0 to a 3.5 small earthquake here in the town of Imperial. That normally happens. That normally happens. Okay? Now, I want to show you something else. Okay? Over here. This is the town of El Centro. El Centro's been having 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes and having 10 to 15 of those earthquakes every day. That is what has hit El Centro today. Okay? 13 earthquakes here in El Centro today. 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes. And yet they're not showing them here on this map. Inquiring minds want to know why. I could pull up the seismogram and show them to you. They show these other earthquakes that are just tremors and minor earthquakes over here just south of Holtville, but they're not showing this. Inquiring minds want to know. Over here just northwest of El Centro Naval Air Station, we have two more here. This is a 1.4 tremor here. This is a 2.5 earthquake here, minor earthquake. 1.5 tremor, nobody feels, they're just tremors. But these 2.5 minor earthquakes, they could possibly be felt. They could possibly be felt. Okay? Not likely, but possibly. 3.0, 3.9 absolutely will be felt. 3.0, 3.9 are felt. 4.0 to 5.0, all felt. 5.0 to 9.0, all felt earthquakes. Very, very dangerous earthquakes. Okay? Getting back here. Okay? Those are the earthquakes that have happened here in the populated region of the Imperial Valley. One other earthquake here. This is just west of the Salton Sea. They're saying this is 16 kilometers east of Ocotillo Wells. It's not. Ocotillo Wells is down here. Ocotillo Wells is down here. This is not east of Ocotillo Wells at all. It's more north of Ocotillo Wells. However, this is southeast of Salton City. Southeast of Salton City. This is a 1.5 tremor here. This is a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake. It's in the middle of the desert out here, between the Salton Sea and the Chocolate Mountains. Almost smack dab in the middle between the Salton Sea and the Chocolate Mountains to the west. Okay? 1.9, 2.0 earthquake, and also a 1.5 tremor. That's what's happened out here. We go north, up to a town that's called Borrego Springs. Borrego Springs here, this is a 1.2 tremor. This is 0.7 in the Anza-Borrego Desert. You need to know this. The Anza-Borrego Desert State Park is northeast San Diego County. Northeast San Diego County. We get small swarms of earthquakes here. Those small swarms of earthquakes sometimes turn out to be 5.0 earthquakes after a time period. But these four earthquakes that you see here are in the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park in northeast San Diego County. This earthquake here is just east of Escondido. This is 3 kilometers east-southeast of Lake Henshaw. East-southeast of Lake Henshaw. Let me pull it out here. It's east-southeast of Lake Henshaw. It's a lot further than that. Lake Henshaw, folks. Lake Henshaw. I've been down here. This is one of my fishing areas. one of my fishing areas. This is a lot closer to that earthquake than that. Good old Lake Henshaw, California. I pulled a lot of brown trout and some crappie and some catfish out of Lake Henshaw. I think I've also pulled a bluegill and some bass out of Lake Henshaw before. Yes, there are earthquakes here. There are some earthquakes here. Further to the north there. Good old Lake Elsinore. USPS says this is north-northwest of Lake Elsinore. No, it's not. It's north-northeast of Lake Elsinore. This is Lake Elsinore here. This is a 1.5 tremor here. Guess what? It's right beside Interstate 15 right out here. Just north-northeast of Lake Elsinore. Unreal. I can tell you stories about Lake Elsinore. Going further north, also along Interstate 15, Home Gardens, California. This is 1.1 tremor here. 1.1 tremor here. Out in the hillsides, out here in the mountains, just south and east of Los Angeles. You can see the residences are also here. Okay? Occasionally they'll call these earthquakes related to these quarries here. They call them quarry blasts. USPS is always wrong about it. I'm glad they finally recognize that this is a 1.1 tremor out here in the hills east southeast of LA. This is in the hills outside of Corona, California. Southeast of Corona, California. A 0.7 microquake here. Going over here, northwest of Orange, California, 1.5 tremor. We go northeast here. Yorba Linda, California. Yorba Linda, 1.6 here in Yorba Linda and 1.6 here. Just for kicks and giggles, why do we have any idea about Yorba Linda? Can anybody tell me why Yorba Linda is famous? Can anybody tell me why Yorba Linda is famous? That lake that looks like Bigfoot's footprint? Oh, that's unreal. I don't remember the name of that lake. It's out just south of Escondido, though. You had to drive over Interstate 15 to get there. And yes, I used to fish out of that lake as well. Why do we know Yorba Linda? Don Patoka says Lake Smell Some More is over at Lake Elsinore. Yes, Lake Smell Some More. We used to call that Lake Smell Some More because during the summer it smelled like yuck. It smelled like a toilet. Yes, Don Patoka, I'm not a crook. Richard Milhouse Nixon, the President of the United States, 74 to 1978, resigned to his vice president as a result of criminal activity that was done by the President, Richard Nixon. But Yorba Linda was where Richard M. Nixon was born. I'm not a crook. I'm not a crook. Unreal. That's what Yorba Linda is famous for. They even have the house that Richard Nixon was born at as a national monument now. Unreal. But folks, these are not the only earthquakes that have hit here. USGS makes it look like these are the only earthquakes. They're not. We have 3.0s, we have 4.0 moderate earthquakes hitting the Los Angeles area. They are just refusing to show it to us. Tomorrow night, I will show you earthquakes here in Southern California. This earthquake here is out in Orange County. Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga, this is a 1.8 tremor here. Just north of here in the hills. Little Creek, California, 0.9 microquake. That is just west of the San Andreas Fault. The east towns here, Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, Tustin, California, Fontana, California, Loma Linda, Mariloma, California, are just west of the San Andreas Fault. And yes, there are a lot of earthquakes in this area. They're just not showing us. Richard Smith says at Medical Center in Loma Linda, yes, a medical center in Loma Linda. That's what's happening in Southern California. Okay? That's what's happening in Southern California. Over here, just west of the San Francisco Bay, on the San Andreas Fault here. This is a 1.2 tremor. 4 kilometers, 2 miles west of the San Francisco Zoo. 4 kilometers west, 2 miles west of the San Francisco Zoo. We've had many earthquakes here. Many earthquakes here in the same area, same region. I don't know how many times I reported earthquakes west of the San Francisco Zoo. This is on the San Andreas Fault. Unreal. Any questions? Any questions? Sage Flip says, thank you, Ron. Well, thank you, Sage. I appreciate you. I appreciate you here. There are a lot of earthquakes all over the West Coast. We go up here. Kelso, Washington. Southwest of Mount St. Helens. This is a 2.0 earthquake here. Well, guess what? They're not reporting any earthquakes again at Mount St. Helens. I assure you, there are plenty of earthquakes happening here at Mount St. Helens. Further north, I can assure you that there are plenty of earthquakes happening here at Mount Rainier. Plenty of them. They're just not showing them because they choose not to show them. Maybe on Thursday I'll show you earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest, including the volcanoes. Unreal. Right up here. This is a 1.3 tremor in Chico, Washington. 4 kilometers west-southwest of Chico, Washington. Right next to it is a 0.9 1.0 tremor, also half a mile southwest of Chico. Chico, Washington, right there. It's right next to the Puget Sound area, guys. Right next to the Puget Sound. Yes, we are going to have earthquakes here. They're just choosing not to show all of the earthquakes. There are plenty of earthquakes, I can assure you. Vancouver Island, Friday Harbor, Orcas Island, Fildago Island, all over here. All over, up and down the coast. Plenty of earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest. There are some earthquakes and not as many earthquakes as I usually show here in Alaska. Usually we have 50 or 60 earthquakes here in Alaska. They're just not showing them. They're just not showing them. Now, this is the town of Anchorage. We're not having any earthquakes anywhere near Anchorage. None. We have a pretty good sized earthquake here. It's a 3.1 here, northeast of Houston, Alaska. Houston, Alaska. Okay? Not much going on here. They're not showing any earthquakes up here in Denali National Park. Usually we have a lot of them there. They're not showing them there. Whatever the reason. Any questions about anything we've shown you tonight? I know we talked a lot about stuff. It's already 8:30 here, Eastern Time. We talked a lot about things here. Any questions about anything we talked about? Jacqueline is asking from the solar storms. Yes, we still have solar storms going on. Okay, we have plasma radiation coming from the sunspots, from the eruptions on the sun. That's going to continue to happen. Now, if you guys went over to Mark Wage's program last night, he talked almost about a non-stop barrage of moderate sunspots erupting. Okay? Almost a constant barrage of sunspots that are erupting. I believe to a certain extent they're still doing that. If you want to know more about what's going on in the sun, go over to Wage's World here on YouTube. Wage's World here on YouTube. He's an expert when it comes to seismic events on the sun. Okay? Yes, the Canadian seismic site is showing activity in the Yukon territories. Most of that is minor earthquakes and tremors, but I believe there is a 4.0 over there in the Yukon territories, a moderate 4.0 earthquake. Solar forcing, yes. CMEs, coronal mass ejections, coming from those sunspots. Plasma radiation coming from the sun, and when it hits Earth, it goes like this. The solar radiation engulfs the Earth just like this, and goes around the Earth. Okay? And yes, those sunspots, those coronal mass ejections, do cause earthquakes. The plasma radiation heats up comes through the atmosphere, it heats up the plates of the Earth, it heats up the earthquake faults, and allows those earthquake faults and the plates to more freely move like this. When it heats up the plates and when it heats up the earthquake faults, okay? It heats up all that gunk and grime, all the biological material, all the sand and dirt and other things that are down there. Heats that up and turns that substance into an oily and greasy substance. Prior to that happening, all that is holding those plates together is by friction. Friction. When that plasma radiation comes and heats up that stuff, it allows the plates to more freely move, just like that. That's why we have the earthquakes that we do. That's why we have subduction zones off the coast, the west coast of the United States like this. That's what's going on also in Indonesia. Heating up of the plates, 7 different tectonic plates in the Indonesia area, allowing those plates to more freely move. That's why Indonesia especially has all the quakes, and USGS is sad that they don't show it. They don't show it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But they refuse to be honest with us. They absolutely refuse to be honest. Now, folks, if there is anything else that's going to go on tonight or early in the morning, we will be coming back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. We usually come on the air between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time every day, Monday through Friday. On weekends, we'll still come on the air if there's something going on. But I try to stay off the air, except for Sunday school. I teach at sometime between 12 and 12:30 on Sunday at noon. I come on the air and teach a Sunday school class called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. I love teaching Sunday school. I love the Lord. That's why I do it. Now, I want to show you just something brief here, okay? I picked this up from a friend of mine earlier today. Okay? I want to share it with you because I think it's important. When we reach out to help those in need, that are in need. Now, I'm thinking specifically about people here in Western North Carolina, where I live. When we reach out to people, those in need, we become the hands and the feet of Jesus Christ. We become the hands and the feet of Jesus Christ, sharing His love through our actions. True faith doesn't just see the need. True faith just doesn't see the need. It steps in to fill the need and meet the need. Think about that. Think about how each and every one of us can help someone that's in need. I will almost bet that each one of us knows something or somebody that needs our help. I know each of us can think of at least one person that needs our help. A simple telephone call, or we walk to their house and say hello. How many people do you know that never say hi to anybody? They come and go from their home to work, whatever they do, and go back home. Nobody says hi. How many people feel lonely? How many people are without their spouses for one reason or another? How many people may have lost a child or other significant person to that? Maybe those people just need to say hi to someone. Us. Taking a dessert, a baked cake, a simple meal to their home, just because we care about them. Just because we care about them. People here in North Carolina still feel a need. I have pictures here I want to show you, just to give you an idea of that need. I want to show you something. This is a person's home. A river came in and flooded this out. A river came here and flooded them out. Western North Carolina. About this one, where the river completely tore apart the highway. You cannot even get into Boone, North Carolina this way anymore. The highway's completely flooded out. Maybe we need to reach out to those that need our help. Maybe we need to be the eyes and ears of Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ is here for us. Well, Jesus Christ is here for us. Someone may not know how they can reach out. Some people may not know how to reach out to God. Maybe we need to go out to them. Maybe we need to reach out to them. Reach out to them. They may need help. Anthony Dibbs said Alabama had an earthquake last night. They surely did. It was a 2.5 earthquake over on the eastern continental divide in northern Alabama. We talked about it last night. Thank you for reminding us, Anthony. I appreciate that. Do you guys have any other questions for me? Do you folks have any other questions for me? I don't see my wife Carol here, and I don't see our son here, tonight, they may be just listening and not getting involved in the chat. They do that. Jacqueline says a 4.8 in Philadelphia in April was crazy. Oh, yes, it was. We talked about that when it happened as well. It happens all the time. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. Folks, I love spending the time with you. I love it spending time with you. I appreciate that. Folks, there isn't anything here that you wouldn't want to tell your friends and your neighbors. I'm asking you now to please share this program with your family, your extended family, your friends and neighbors, the people you associate with on social media, and even the people you work with. We talked about a lot of things here that everybody needs to know about. We can see something happening over in Russia and Ukraine, and having Russian attacking the United States or any of the other of our Western allies. Anything can happen. That's why I talked about Ukraine and Russia tonight. We need to know what's happening. I believe Biden has brought over those missiles, and those missiles, 6 of them were launched at Russia from Ukraine. It was a provocative action because that would have provoked Russia to attack the U.S. right before President Trump takes office. Again, President Trump has talked to President Putin, even though President Putin's office denies it happened. Putin knows what's going on. I don't think Putin is an idiot, but I do believe something could happen. That's why I spoke about this tonight. We need to keep our ears and our heads on. We need to keep our heads on a swivel. I love each and every one of you. Please share this program far and wide. Also, please, if you feel up to it and you can, please, guys, please send us donations. We need to keep this program on the air. We had an event last night with YouTube where YouTube buffered us until we got off the air. I talked to an attorney today. I also sent a message to President Trump and Elon Musk last night. I have not heard from them back, but I'm preparing to take action against Google and YouTube. I would hope you'd help support that to keep this program on the air. I'm getting tired of these idiots at YouTube and Google taking me down. I'm tired of it. They suppress this channel. A few days ago, we had 2,000 people watching our program. Then suddenly, the number of people watching this program dropped to 200 again. Dropped to 200, 300, 400. Why? Because they are suppressing our channel. They don't like us here. But I really don't care what they like or don't like. We're going to continue to do our job. We have 2 PayPal locations that you can find in the program description directly below this video today. 2 PayPal locations and a Venmo location you can send us donations to. Also, our address is scrolling across the bottom of your screen tonight. 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. You see our email there. You can send us emails as well. We'd love to see that. Carol and I love to see cards and letters. Please send us cards and letters as well. You can slip a donation inside the card or letter so it won't be seen from the outside, and you can slip a donations to us as well. We'd appreciate that very much. Folks, I love you. I love you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you the truth. I care about you. Tim Gibson is here. Tim, thank you very much for being here. Scott Carrico's here. Thank you very much, Scott. We appreciate you here as well. Now, guys, as we end this program tonight, like I said, if there's anything else going on, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a good night and a better tomorrow. Enjoy yourselves. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.